Bhagavatam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Abhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we have a slightly different class today. We are going to be speaking about the glories of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, as it is his disappearance day today. These many, many festivals that we have where we celebrate, commemorate, remember Krishna's various different pastimes, his different personalities, his different appearances. Also include amongst our many festivals are the celebrations of the appearances and disappearances of the personalities who bring Krishna alive for us. They bring Krishna alive for us. And so Srila Jagannath Das Babaji is one such personality. We're actually really lucky. We're in such a wonderful community where literally there is a festival almost every day. There is something or someone to celebrate every single day. And sometimes festivals and disappearance and appearance days for personalities who are lesser known get overlooked because, and I think one of the reasons they get overlooked is when we don't know much about someone or don't know what significance they might hold for us. We don't tend to keep them in the forefront of our mind. We don't tend to have an appreciation for them. So I think days like today, where we get to have a class specifically on a personality, are really important for all of us because such a big part of our growth, actually essential to our growth, is our relationship with Guru Tattva, our relationship with not just our initiating spiritual master or our instructing spiritual teachers, but all of the heavyweights, the entire parampara, who are through this web-like network, this disciplic succession, are drip feeding Krishna Prem right from the source through this beautiful network right down through to us. And so the more we understand and appreciate the different links in this network, the better we can connect with Guru Tattva. Because ultimately, Guru Tattva, Lord Balaram's strength, Lord Nityananda's mercy, is bigger than any institution, bigger than any particular yoga, bigger than rules and regulations, bigger than organizational permissions and laws. Yes, because ultimately Guru Tattva is about surrendering in the heart to be able to hear and receive transcendental knowledge, and surrendering in the heart to be able to and choosing to serve others in sharing that. And relationships can be facilitated by structures, but they can't be forced to not happen. So we can have relationships with those who are physically present and those who have physically departed by understanding a little bit more about them and what is it that keeps them so devoted? What is something I can receive from this personality, even though I didn't get a chance to physically meet this person? We often talk about following in the footsteps of acharyas. Following in the footsteps of acharyas, people always ask, they ask this question all the time, what does it mean to follow? You know, this, and when you look at a small child, when they learn from their parents, they do it through modeling, imitation. This is imitation is a very young way of following in the footsteps of someone. Yeah, we may find that when we first take to Krishna consciousness, when devotees first take to Krishna consciousness. I remember when I first joined, and I know many who come now who first join, that we want to go for that kind of copy paste. Oh, okay, this person fasted 3 days in a row and didn't sleep for 3 days in a row. Let me try that. You know, devotees come up with these things, and then they ultimately find that imitation doesn't work. But because people are sincere, they want to continue to ask, well, what does it mean to follow in the footsteps? And when we look at really following in the footsteps, as somebody grows up more, even in their human life, how do they follow in the footsteps of parents or other people they admire or their heroes? What do? We change our mood. It doesn't become about imitation. It's more, how do I emulate this person? How do I understand what motivates them, what drives them? So today we are going to understand a little bit more about Jagannath Das Babaji. And when we understand personalities like him, we see that bhakti is not about how much we do in this world and how much what we do is recognized, but really what he really emulates is that being a devotee is becoming a reservoir, a portal, a living, breathing lifeline, where your sadhana, your practice, your connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so deep rooted that even when you do very little, because by your own bhakti, you become a medium, a tirtha. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was such a tirtha. I'm going to base today's session on a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 16th chapter. It's verse 281. I'll share my screen with you. The purport is, it's a medium-sized purport, but there's a lot of points in there which will help you to, when I start sharing a few things about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, it will help you to understand really what significance he has for all of us. So I'm going to just share my screen. Can you all see this? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. And if you want to read it in your own time, you can. Tabu Vrindavana yaha loka shikaite seta karibe tamara ye lae chite. So this is Gadadhar Pandit speaking to Lord Chaitanya. He says, although wherever you stay is Vrindavan, you will still go to Vrindavan just to instruct people. Otherwise, you will do whatever you think best. Srila Prabhupada says, it was not essential for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan, for wherever he stayed, he was immediately converted to Vrindavan. Indeed, at that place were also the river Ganga, the river Yamuna, and all other places of pilgrimage. This was also expressed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself when he danced in the Rath Yatra. At that time, he said that his mind was Vrindavan, Mora Mana Vrindavan. Because his mind was Vrindavan, all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna were taking place within himself. Nonetheless, just to teach people, he visited Bhauma Vrindavan, Vrindavan Dham in this material world. In this way, the Lord instructed everyone to visit Vrindavan Dham, which is a very holy place. Materialists consider Vrindavan Dham an unclean city because there are many monkeys and dogs there, and along the bank of the Yamuna there is refuse. Some time ago, a materialistic man asked me, "Why are you living in Vrindavan? Why have you selected such a dirty place to live after retiring?" Such a person cannot understand that the earthly Vrindavan Dham is always a representation of the original Vrindavan Dham. Consequently, Vrindavan Dham is as worshipable as Lord Krishna. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesh Tanasya Tad Dham Vrindavanam. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, Lord Sri Krishna and his abode Vrindavan are equally worshipable. Sometimes materialistic people who have no spiritual understanding go to Vrindavan as tourists. One who goes to Vrindavan with such materialistic vision cannot derive any spiritual benefit. Such a person is not convinced that Krishna and Vrindavan are identical. Since they are identical, Vrindavan is as worshipable as Lord Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision, Mora Mana Vrindavan, is different from the vision of an ordinary materialistic person. At the Rath Yatra festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, absorbed in the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, dragged Lord Krishna back to Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke of this in the verses beginning Ahus Chate, Madhya 13.136. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.84.13, it is also stated, a human being who identifies the body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsman, who considers the land of birthplace as worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge, there is to be considered like an ass or a cow. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally renovated Vrindavan Dham and advised his chief disciples Rupa and Sanatan to develop it and open it to attract the spiritual vision of the general populace. At present, there are about 5,000 temples in Vrindavan, and still, our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is constructing a huge, magnificent temple for the worship of Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, along with Radha Krishna and Guru Gauranga. Since there is no prominent Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, we are attempting to construct one so that people will be attracted to Krishna Balaram or Nitai Gaurachandra. Vrajendra Nandanaye Sachi Suta Haile Se. Narottam Das Thakur says that Balaram and the son of Maharaj Nanda have advented themselves as Gauranitai. To propagate this fundamental principle, we are establishing a Krishna Balaram temple. To broadcast to the world that worship of Gauranitai is the same as worship of Krishna Balaram. Although it is very difficult to enter into the Radha Krishna pastimes, most of the devotees of Vrindavan are attracted to the Radha Krishna Leela. However, since Nitai Gaurachandra are direct incarnations of Balaram and Krishna, we can be directly in touch with Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Those who are highly elevated in Krishna consciousness can enter into the pastimes of Radha Krishna through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha Krishna. Sometimes materialists, forgetting the pastimes of Radha Krishna and Krishna Balaram, go to Vrindavan, accept the land's spiritual facilities, and engage in material activity. This is against the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Prakrita Sahajas proclaim themselves Vrajavasis or Dhamvasis, but they are mainly engaged in sense gratification. Thus, they become more and more implicated in the materialistic way of life. Those who are pure devotees in Krishna consciousness condemn their activities. The eternal Vrajavasis, like Swarup Damodar, did not even come to Vrindavan Dham. Sri Pundarika Vidyanidhi, Sri Haridas Thakur, Sri Vas Pandit, Shivananda Sen, Sri Ramananda Rai, Sri Sikhi Mahiti, Sri Madhavi Devi, and Sri Gadadhar Pandit Goswami never visited Vrindavan Dham. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that we have no authorized documents stating that these exalted personalities visited Vrindavan. Nonetheless, we find many non-devotees, Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakrita Sahajas, fruitive workers, mental speculators, and many others with material motives going to Vrindavan to live. Many of these people go there to solve their economic problems by becoming beggars. Although anyone living in Vrindavan somehow or other is benefited, the real Vrindavan is appreciated only by a pure devotee. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, when one has purified eyes, he can see that Vrindavan and the original Goloka Vrindavan planet in the spiritual sky are identical. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Sri Bhagwan Das Babaji Maharaj, and Srila Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and later Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur of Calcutta, always engaged in Nam Bhajan, and certainly did not live anywhere else but Vrindavan. Presently, the members of the Hare Krishna movement throughout the world live in materially opulent cities such as London, New York, Los Angeles, Paris, Moscow, Zurich, and Stockholm. However, we are satisfied with following in the footsteps of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas. Because we live in the temples of Radha and Krishna and continuously hold Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of Hare Krishna, we consequently live in Vrindavan and nowhere else. We are also following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by attempting to construct a temple in Vrindavan for our disciples throughout the world to visit. This is one of the few purports where Srila Prabhupada mentions Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj to give us some context into who he is. Many of you will have seen his photograph on the when you see the Guru Parampara picture on the altar. So what you'll see is Srila Prabhupada. Before Srila Prabhupada, you will see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Before Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you will see Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj. Then next to him, you see Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And next to him, we see this very exalted personality, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Now, he was born, at a time when people didn't keep such accurate records. He was born in the 1700s sometime between 1750 and 1770. And he was said to have lived somewhere between at the age of 142 to 144. A life of blue zone living was not his secret to longevity. His secret to longevity was actually, we know from Bhagavatam, third canto, 16th chapter, that time does not affect the devotee's body and mind the same way it affects somebody who is in the throes and completely absorbed in a materialistic way of thinking. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he lived to a very, very old age at a time when one would think that people didn't live that long. We often associate the 17 and 1800s as the time when people were unhygienic and unclean and didn't know about bathing and, eating opulent foods and organic foods. Although things were probably more organic then. And people had infections and all sorts of diseases that modern medicine didn't have the solution for. But here we have somebody living to 144. And I think I can't remember the last time I read of someone now, even in, either the 1900s or the 2000s, living to 144. So he lived for a very long time. And he's known from the beginning of his life of always being an extremely deep devotee, always absorbed in chanting, always absorbed in hearing, always absorbed in remembering. Even at a young age, he was known for fasting profusely, for chanting for 3 days and nights in a row. So his bhajan was really, really deep. I know devotees are asking what I mean by blue zone living. Some of you may be familiar, and those of you who aren't, I'll give you one sentence. Modern society is obsessed with prolonging our youthfulness, prolonging our lifespan. And it's amazing because things have come full circle. People are focusing on a more plant-based diet. Yes, you have the superficial things that actually just make you look nicer whilst inside you're aging. But many more people are looking to a more mode of goodness living and sattvic diet. And blue zones are the areas of the world where they have the highest concentration of people living to 100. So they study their lifestyle. So what I was just saying is that really just referring to that, 1700s, 1800s, this kind of a thing wasn't known about. But devotees lived by mode of goodness living is gonna, in addition to the time factor influencing the devotee's life differently, Mode of goodness living is good for the body, mind, and the soul. And we're not just vegetarians or vegans, we're Krishnatarians. So coming back to Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he was from a very young age, fasting, eating only Krishna prasad, but even the amount being very small, chanting for days and nights on end. And these are not the practices of an imitator. These are the practices of an emulator and the practices of somebody who has developed taste and attachment and ecstasy in their nam bhajan, in their service. And because of the time and era that he was born, more details about his chronological or biography, it's sparse, but some key things, and we really find out much more about him when we go to Navadvip and Kolkata. Being the spiritual master, or especially Shiksha Guru of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who met him in the late 1800s and started to take much more instruction from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, then we find out that actually Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was deeply, deeply realized, even even in his very old age, especially after he reached the age of 100. It's described how his body had become so emaciated and affected by time that his body had curled into like literally a semicircle. He couldn't move himself. So he had one servant called Bihari Das, who was extrememly strong, and he would carry Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in a basket on his shoulders. And Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj never stopped chanting, never stopped chanting. Even before Bhaktivinoda Thakur met him, he's very famous for having deep realizations, uncovering and discovering famous deities in Vrindavan. And he would tell Bihari Das, his servant, he said, go and find this deity in Vrindavan. And he would give him the exact location. And he would worship this deity himself. And then he would pass the deity on to qualified devotees. There was once he was approached by a businessman who wanted to test his spiritual prowess and said, show me some magic. This is quite common. People think that somebody who is deeply spiritual is able to have mystical abilities and do magic tricks. And in this way, people often get cheated into surrendering their money and their life and their bodies to people who are just going to exploit them. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he said, there's no, what miracle are you talking about? The only miracle is the holy name. And he says, no, I want to see something that shows me that you have abilities that somebody would have who's very, very spiritual. Because when you're that deeply devoted, word spreads. And Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he was not interested in entertaining. This is a businessman with some cheap trick, with some mystic siddhi. But in his ecstasy, he started banging his stick because he had divine vision. He would stay 6 months until he became very old. He would stay 6 months in Navadvip, 6 months in Vrindavan. And when he became very old, he started banging this stick on the ground, and the businessman said, why are you banging your sticks like that? That's not a magic trick. What are you doing? And he explained, he said there's a goat near Lokanath Das Goswami's samadhi. He's trying to eat the tulsi there. I'm just trying to drive him away. And this businessman thought, how unusual. This doesn't seem like a magic trick. But if he really can see, because he was in Navadvip, if he can really see Vrindavan from where he's sitting now and can see that Lokanath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir near Radhakund has a goat chewing the tulsi leaves, this personality is extremely special. This is greater than even mystic siddhis. And so he sends a telegram to Vrindavan, to a relative there. And yes, he has a response telling me, yes, there was a goat near the samadhi, and it was a big goat. It was chewing leaves. And then we heard this loud banging of a stick, and the goat ran away. So he wasn't interested. He didn't do that to impress the businessman. He just through his deep, as Lord Chaitanya says, Maro Man Vrindavan, his mind, his heart, his spiritual heart, his physical heart, his psychological heart were all steeped in Vrindavan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he had the good fortune of meeting Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and started to take instruction from him. And one of the reasons Bhaktivinoda Thakur is celebrated as the seventh Goswami is in this purport we're hearing about how the six Goswamis and Lord Chaitanya, discovered and then excavated and developed Vrindavan and re-established so many temples. However, we can only have this pure vision of Bhumi Vrindavan and Goloka Vrindavan being the same by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So actually accessing the locations of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Lord Nityananda's pastimes, is even more important in many ways. And we see this because Goramandal or Navadvip Dham is expanding whilst Vraj is retracting. It's becoming smaller. And we know this is predicted in scripture. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as part of his mission when he was staying in Godrumadweep, he had some rooms there, and his son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also had rooms in that house. And as he was taking instruction from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he also made quarters for him there. And you can see a nice, beautiful temple and bhajan kutir and samadhi. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had a vision. Again, Mora Man Vrindavan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also had this vision. And from his window, if you go to his rooms, even today, we just went a couple of months ago, you can, from that window, you see across the Ganga, and you can see the TOVP, you can see Mayapur Chandrodaya Temple. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the 1880s, he was trying to find the exact location of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. He was trying to find the exact location of Srivas Thakur's place, Shivasangan. He wanted to know with certainty where is Navadvip. And so he looked at historical records, he looked at maps, he looked through Shastra. And then he had this divine vision. When he looked out of his window, he saw this temple. And so he took Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Bihari Das carried him on his shoulders, on his head, on his head. And he carried him to this spot. And me, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he saw flashing lights and so many different things, and it was empty. And he asked nearby locals, said, why is this place so empty, so quiet? They said, oh, many years ago people started noticing some unusual activity here, and they just got frightened. They didn't know what it was, so they ran away. So he brought Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Now Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj always also worshipped a Govardhan Shila, which he carried around his neck. So he's there in his basket, completely curled up, quite debilitated. He barely moved. He would chant his rounds, and occasionally he would put his hands up in kirtan and sing. But he had to have everything done for him. And so as they approach Yogapit, when they get to that exact spot, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj jumps up. He jumps up out of the basket, the most movement and most sound he's made. He says, Haribol, Jai Gauranga. He becomes excited, and he confirms that this is the spot of the Yogapit. And then he also points out Shivasangan, because Moraman Vrindavan. He had a Govardhan Shila, so a piece of Govardhan. Govardhan is non-different to Krishna. Somebody's asking, what did he have around his neck? So non-different to Krishna, worshipable as Krishna. Actually, the darker stones Krishna, the yellowish golden stones Radharani, and the white crystal-like ones are Lord Balaram. So he would worship Govardhan. And you can also worship Govardhan as Govardhan the servant. So he jumped up like this. And from that day, continuing to take instruction from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur started to discover more and more places in Navadvip. So our Navadvip parakram that we do today is by the grace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who also in Navadvip Mahatmya, he translated and he also wrote or translated and put together the Navadvip Mahatmya, which is based on the first ever Navadvip Parakram, which is actually Lord Nityananda taking Jiva Goswami around Navadvip. So everything is extremely bona fide. When Srila Prabhupada gives us these names of the disciplic succession, he's pointing out to us, when we hear more, this is the potency of being connected to disciplic succession and understanding the different personalities. We realize the richness that's there. When we say bona fide, bona fide spiritual master must come in disciplic succession. This isn't about rules and regulations. This is about the nectar that comes from having a heritage where you know that things haven't been lost, that things haven't been tampered with, that things are coming as they are, right? When we hear about to be able to join the dots, this is a piece of history. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, him and the instructions that he gave Bhaktivinoda Thakur in discovering all of these, we are so grateful. We are so reliant, dependent on Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj for what he shared. Actually, there's some very sweet pastimes also between Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a few homes. He at one period of time lived in Jagannath Puri. He also had homes in Kolkata and of course in Navadvip, particularly in Godrumadvip. And he one time he wanted to serve Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and he invited him to his home in Kolkata. But Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was very absorbed. He didn't really make visits to many places, but he agreed. And so in that home at that time, and you can go there still in Kolkata. It's being renovated. We've recently acquired the property, and ISKCON is really looking after it nicely. Bhaktivinoda Thakur served Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj so nicely. He served him so nicely that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj gave him that Govardhan Shila that he wore around his neck as a gift, and told him that he should worship him. And actually, once it's open, you will be able to. We were really fortunate. We darshan. When you go to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home, you'll have darshan of the Krishna deity that Bhaktivinoda Thakur worshipped, the Kurma Shila that he worshipped, that he excavated from actually the extension when he was developing that house. That's not how you normally find Shilas. And this very same Govardhan Shila that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj gave him. So this personality, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, we can offer our respects to him. We can appreciate what he's teaching us, that actually real Vrindavan is within the heart and mind. But activating this real Vrindavan comes through the mercy of Gauranitai. Srila Prabhupada has put so much effort in such a late stage of life to make Shastra, the holy dhams and temples available to us anywhere in the world, regardless of color, creed, caste, gender, so that we can develop this mood of Moraman Vrindavan, so we can approach Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, so we can approach the Guru Parampara, a bona fide Guru Parampara, a disciplic succession where we are being drip-fed directly. Drip-fed nectar, transcendental nectar. We don't have to worry it's been mixed, it's been contaminated, somebody's meddled with it. We're getting it as it is. But what Srila Prabhupada emphasizes in that purport is that when we follow in the footsteps of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, if we want to come to that point where our taste for the holy name, where our desire to connect is so deep, this mood of Mora Man Vrindavan is increased by spending time in the dhams. But Prabhupada emphasizes in this purport that you don't have to physically go to the dham because he has created dhams all around the world. And equally, Srila Prabhupada has given us a blueprint of how to turn the home into a dham. What is the purpose of a temple? You know, we understand this in my work as a psychiatrist. There are these 5 pillars of spirituality that are good for our mental health. And one of them is a sacred space. Temples are a sacred space. They're a portal, they're a tirtha, they're a bridge to the spiritual world. They're a sacred space because the visuals, the sounds, the fragrances, the things you touch, the things you taste, everything is sacred. All of those things can be brought into the home. What is the purpose of the 5 working senses that are steeped in sacred geometry and sacred architecture? They allow the external sacred space to create an internal sacred space. We live in cities. So many people who live in cities have lost the culture of visiting a temple regularly. But Prabhupada also established deity worship in the home. If you can't get to the temple every day, have a minimum standard to get to the temple, even if it's once a week. But you can definitely create and get to the temple in your home. It does not require a big space. Even if you're in a studio, even if you're in a bedsit, if you can dedicate 1 square foot, 1 corner as your sacred space where you do your worship, where you do your japa, where you do your offerings, that one tiny space, just like Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, that space in his basket became like the epicenter. It became the epicenter of a holy dham. Anyone who came near him would be transformed. Okay, and so we can do this. Don't give up. Don't feel like if you're far from a temple or your schedule doesn't permit you to go to the temple regularly, that you can't create this at home. We make the endeavor. We can take this example from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Make the endeavor to create the dham in the home. Then the dham activates in the heart, and actually things start to shift around in your life in such a way that the dham becomes accessible internally and externally, whether that's your local dham or you get a chance to actually go and visit the dhams. I certainly recommend everybody go at least once to Mayapur and at least once to Vrindavan in their lifetime. And if you can't go physically, then go remotely. Look at pictures, watch videos, immerse yourself. There is a power to sacred architecture and sacred geometry, which is beyond even being good for our mental health. It is nourishment for our soul. It's soul food. So on this day, we can extend our appreciation to Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj for actually making Mayapur Dham available to us so we can understand and learn about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and we can go deeper in our devotional service. I know I've spoken right up until pretty much the time that the curtains open, and most of our Q&A will likely be after in the afterglow. We've touched on a few different topics today, but I want to leave you with just this section as we go into darshan. I just want to share with you the pranam mantra for Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. It's a Gora Virbhava Bhumistvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. Translation is: I offer my respectful obeisances to Jagannath Das Babaji, who is respected by the entire Vaishnav community and who discovered the place where Lord Chaitanya appeared. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai.
Thank you very much for drawing the line between.
Prabhu, your audio is not so clear. I don't know what's happened to your audio.
I love Krishna and devotees.
There we go, you're back.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. Janitai Prabhu, thank you for carrying us lovingly. Amrit Krishna Prabhu, Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai.
There's no audio coming from the temple.
Is there audio now?
Is that Janita? No, there isn't. We can see them. They look beautiful.
No, it's just breaking out.
Okay, it's back.
Shirada Murlidhar Marchandra Ki Jai. Shingade Bhagavan Ki Jai. Shirada Murlidhar Ki Jai. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lotus feet of our spiritual master. And the only way I bow down to his lotus feet and pray all entity. I was fellow one who crossed the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attaching to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, the Lord and master of the devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shame of the lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the great worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Temple Room Ki Jai. Thank you. Jai Shri Shri Radha Murlidhar, Shri Guru Chandra. Chiji Shakti Devidasi, thank you so much. Beautiful class. Thank you for explaining the role of Jagannath Das Babaji in the Sampradaya. Thank you for drawing the line between his devotion, his extreme renunciation, and his far out pastimes, and us here. Thank you. sometimes people may say, "Oh, those Babajis, they don't even preach." So what's our response to that? That they don't participate in the society, they don't produce anything, and they don't even preach. How do we refute that?
Yes. Actually, being pivotal in discovering and confirming where the hubs, where the holy dhams are on this planet, that's the fuel for our preaching. Every preacher needs a place to go to fill up their tank, so to speak, right? And if we don't know where these transcendental locations are on this planet, where do we go to fill up the tank? How do we know what to emulate in our mind and heart? How do we know how to make the home a sacred space? So actually, he did preach. His preaching was so potent, by sitting in one place, he was able to change the consciousness of the planet. You know, even from his little basket, he was able to confirm that here are the pastimes of these are the places where Gaura Nitai had their pastimes. See, after when Lord Nityananda takes Jiva Goswami on the first ever parakram around Navadvip, he predicts and he tells Jiva Goswami, he says, look, this is very soon after we leave, this is all going to get covered over. The Ganga's going to, you know, all of this land is going to get immersed, and all of these Prodya Maya, she's Yoga Maya who covers over the Dham. She's going to cover this all over to protect it from it being destroyed by people who don't understand the uniqueness and the potency of Gaura Nitai's pastimes. But again, then it will be discovered. And, you know, in this, Lord Nityananda tells Jiva Goswami in this description about this, you know, Senapati Bhakta and the rediscovering of Navadvip Mandal, and how a big temple will be built, and there will be people coming from all over the planet of all colors, races, religion. It's really powerful. Navadvip Mahatmya is a really wonderful book. So he did preach. He is one of our great generals who is at the heart of our preaching spirit. See, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had an initiating guru and a shiksha guru. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj's spirit was a spirit of preaching. Same with we look at Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Even though his initiating spiritual master is Gokishore Das Babaji, actually he took a lot of shiksha from his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That preaching spirit is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That mood is from him. So if we can preach, it's because we have personalities like Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in our lives. We must never think that we're doing anything more or anything better, even if on the surface it looks like the doing side is something we're taking care of. He could have done everything we're doing and more. But this is, you know, just like Srila Prabhupada said, you know, I'm leaving some of this for you to continue. And he said, my Guru Maharaj could have done all of this, but he left something for me to do. So it's actually our privilege that we are allowed to do something. We don't do service because we're qualified. We serve to become qualified. We don't preach because we're qualified. We preach to become qualified. Yes? Hare Krishna, thank you for that beautiful question.
Thank you. Yeah, if not for devotees like Jagannath Das Babaji, this place would have become a complete hellhole, hopeless,
100%.
place. Thank you.
100%.
Dear devotees, it's your turn to shine. Chiti Shakti, you have a few minutes to go over time with us?
Of course I do, yeah.
Dear devotees, please reflect back. Saurabh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, lots of love, devotion, and respect to
Hare
everyone.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your amazing, enlightening class. I wanted to, interestingly, the last probably a month or so, there's been a prayer bhajan in my heart, and it's so interestingly connected with what you were saying today about Vrindavan, and it was centered at Vrindavan and Man meaning the connection of mind, body, and soul. So I was compelled to share a few lines
Please.
of the prayer for everyone's benefit. I pray for everyone that's on the call. We're all going through things in life sometimes, whatever it may be. I'm praying for everyone on the call. I hope, and I'm sure Krishna is going to help. So with that in mind, man meaning mind, body, and soul. This is where my mind, body, and soul has been. Sriman Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. Sriman Vrindavan, Vrindavan, Vrindavan. Sriman Giri Dari, Giri Dari, Giri Dari. Sriman Giri Dari, Giri Dari, Giri Varadari. Sriman Govinda Bolo Hari Gopal Bolo. Sriman Govinda Bolo Hari Gopal Bolo. Radha Raman Hari Govinda Bolo. श्रीमन राधे राधे जपो चल आएंगे बिहारी एक्सक्यूज मी श्रीमन राधे राधे जपो चल आएंगे बिहारी श्रीमन श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम जय श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम जय श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम गायो नो गोवार बोले श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम जय श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम गोकुलनी गायो बोले श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम जय श्री कृष्ण शरणम मम The birds of Vrindavan sing Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Jai Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. The trees of Vrindavan sing Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Jai Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Shriman Narayana Narayana Hari Hari Shriman Narayana Narayana Hari Hari Shriman Narayana Narayana Narayan Shriman Vrindavan 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 Shriman Giri Dari Giri Dari Giri Varadari Shriman Radhe Krishna Radhe Krishna Radhe Krishna Shriman Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Shriman Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol. It was much louder. Sorry, my voice was off a little bit, but um I
Beautiful.
thank you so much for your class.
Thank you.
Much love and respects.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sarah Prabhu. That was very sweet. I was remembering my trip to Vrindavan in Mayapur. It was very sweet. I felt ecstatic. Thank you. Dear devotees, questions, angles of vision, clarifications?
Everyone is quiet today. This group normally has lots to say. Devika Preeti, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. I think my biggest take home is what you were saying at the end about how, like, even if we're not able to go to the temple, like, as much as our heart wants to, how we can make our homes a temple, no matter how big our home is or how small it is. So I was just thinking about that, and how I can also try to cultivate a sacred space in my heart, so that hopefully, as I'm going around in the world, that I'm able to help uplift others' consciousness. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that's thank you for bringing that point to the forefront again. Yeah, absolutely. You know, the odds are stacked against us in our environment and the kind of day and age we're in, and especially if we're living in cities, even more so. So it is really important that all of us have a practice of connecting with an external sacred space every single day. Every single day. It has to be. It's like our spiritual armor. It nourishes us, it protects us. And when we do that, the insurmountable becomes surmountable. The things that feel like, God, it's so hard for me to adjust my life so that I can be more immersed in this, Krishna starts to send help because we are regularly filling up our spiritual tank. And remember, when we're in a sacred space, it makes it easier for us to go inwards. And then we carry that. You know, there's the examples often given, and I quote Satchidananda Maharaj on this, is he says, you know, our personal practice does more for what we do and has much bigger impact than what we do than anything else. It's like going into a fragrance shop. And you are inevitably going to leave the fragrance shop with a fragrance around you. And As you walk past other people, they pick up on that fragrance. So when we make a pit stop every morning, or any time of day, morning is best, but any time of day, come home and do it if you have to. But make that pit stop in the sacred space in your home. Make a pit stop at least once a week in the sacred space of your local temple, if you can. Make a pit stop once in your lifetime to one of the holy dhams. But when we make that pit stop, we get saturated, we carry the fragrance of that connection with the eternal reality. And then people pick up on it and they don't even always know what they're picking up on, but it makes them turn their head.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, dear devotees, please make your bed, clean your room. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Aaron, Hare Krishna. Nice to see you again.
Haribol, Chitti Shakti Mataji, and yeah, thanks everyone for your association. So something that interested me was you mentioned the 5 pillars of spiritual life or something like that. I just had a quick search, but it seemed a bit I wasn't sure what to look at. Is there somewhere that I can
Yeah, I mean, I'm writing about it now, but 5 pillars of spirituality and mental health it's essentially the 5 most well-established aspects of spirituality based on research, decades of research in mental health. That those 5 things are known, proven to improve resilience and improve recovery rates. So they don't replace treatments, but they augment. But certainly what these 5 pillars show, and it's one of the reasons I'm writing about it, is that your psyche is more than your mind. There's more to us than our mind. And actually, when we connect with soul food, actually is extremely good for our mental well-being. And a lot of our mental health struggles these days are from being disconnected from our spiritual self. So these 5 pillars are, you're not going to be able to Google it and find it. If you do, you may end up with one of my talks. But these 5 pillars are the first, and these are not in any order. One I already mentioned, sacred architecture. So that's known to improve people's mental health and resilience. The attitudes, so positive spiritual psychology, so the attitudes that spiritual traditions are steeped in, so forgiveness, tolerance, kindness, mercifulness, honesty, all of these things. Remember, these are great positive psychological attitudes, but they have their roots in spiritual teachings because ultimately they come from the spiritual self. The third is the practices like yoga, meditation, prayer. These are known to be good for the body, the mind, and of course the soul. We see great cognitive benefit, physiological benefit. We see changes in the brain. The fourth area is like-minded spiritual communities. These again have a massive impact on people's mental well-being. Actually, research has shown that those who practice spirituality separate from religion or a community are more vulnerable because they have no one to turn to when they have existential questions. And those existential questions can trigger so many things. Whereas when you're in a like-minded spiritual community, there's someone to turn to. Now, off the back of this, I often talk about, I'll talk to the public and patients about meditating responsibly, because any type of meditation brings stuff up. And when you have a spiritual community, that's part of being responsible with your meditation. And then the last, and for me, I feel like it's such an important thing that isn't talked about, and that is a collaborative relationship with God or divinity, which is essentially the bhakti path, because so many paths teach a fear-based approach to divinity or an awe and reverence-based approach to divinity. And those are there, but bhakti is like, well, actually, ultimately, we want one of love and devotion. And love and devotion is a collaborative relationship with God. And the aspect of that that's good for our mental health is it keeps the locus of control. It identifies that there's an element of free will in everything, rather than everything's guided and done by somebody else, which is very much the mood of fear and awe and reverence. So when we have a collaborative approach with divinity, it's really, really good for our well-being, spiritual well-being, as well as our human life. So that's the 5 pillars in a nutshell. I did a Wisdom of the Sages podcast on this very topic last year. You should be able to find it on their channel.
Okay, thank you, and I'll look forward to the hopefully seeing the paper
The
or the
book.
book.
The book, yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Aaron D. D for Das, right, Aaron?
We'll get him a new name soon.
Okay. Aaron, that's Arjuna, I'd say, right off the bat. Arjuna Das.
I hope not Aaron does, because then I'm just my own servant. So yeah, hopefully I can move beyond that.
Jai. Okay. All right. Annabelle, Isaiah, Sage, and Sky. Please, Jiv Jaga, wake up. Wake up.
Oh, there's somebody's kindly shared the link in the chat to that episode of Wisdom of the Sages. Thank you.
Thank you. Isaiah, Hare Krishna. Sage, Sky, good morning. Paw Patrol Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and chant loudly. Jagannath Das Babaji never stopped chanting. So let's do it.
Bye, stop. Don't do it. No.
Thank you very much. That was very loud and enthusiastic. We want to put you in our basket and carry you everywhere so you can keep chanting. Thank you very much. Sage, Sky, Isaiah, Annabelle, nice seeing you. Thank you, Chiti Shakti Devidasi.
My pleasure. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad
Yeah.
Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaja ki jai, all his disciples ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.